Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of MTG Arena. Today is Wednesday, November 13th. The event is complete. I don't like the way this is presented, particularly since I'm almost 100% certain that I got all the prizes here, and this really adds that seed of questioning, did I get all the prizes? Or was there one more victory I needed to do and I just failed to realize that and missed out on some custom skin? Who knows? Like, you can't really go back and prove it now. So let's see, can we re-roll this? No, because I re-rolled this earlier this morning. Wednesday Brawl is here. What do we get for Wednesday Brawls? Like, do we really need to do a Wednesday Brawl at all? Or are they just wastes of time? So, I've learned a little bit more. I'm trying as hard as I can to learn about how these expansions come out. And it seems like the fall rotation is when the core sets come out. So the core 2020 sets packs are probably something I should try to go for. It's not realistic that I could just survive playing only Throne of Eldraine cards alone and really succeed for the next year. But I would say War of the Spark, which is I believe the one before the core 2020 set, should be something we don't really focus on, and anything before that is definitely not cards that we should try and focus and have. We are making progress. I think we still probably have time to make it to at least 90, which is the minimum we would want to hit, or actually 100 is the minimum. And we've got some more mastery orbs. I got 2 at one time, so let's see, 1, 2, 3. This one doesn't have 3 in it. And yeah, I think that balances things out a little bit more. Although in actuality, this has 4 in it, and this has 3 in it, and this has 3 in it, and this has 3 in it. But then also this is a bigger mess because of the way things are going to go. Let's put one here and then see if we could work our way towards a cosmetic here, and then a cosmetic on the Royal Scions, because that's probably about the most impressive Planeswalker card in this whole set. I don't know if there's anything else you would be looking for more than the Royal Scions, so we may just play out of order and grab this early. Getting a full line probably doesn't do anything for us, although it would be really nice if it did. If it, say, gave us custom skins for all the other cards, that would be great. There also is, I think, something to be said about how Magic the Gathering and Paper Magic in particular is designed in such a way that that you, what would be the right way to put this? It's designed in such a way that the foil cards for commons and uncommons are still barely worth 50 cents, and money is a big factor in magic, way more of a factor than it should be. So if I was going to take this out, and then we could try a different commander. Let's see. So we could try this. I don't want to every Wednesday have to build a new deck, but in all actuality, I probably am going to end up having to build a new deck to just keep it interesting. Let's see. We've got all kinds of things here. What we want are, let's get rid of that because that's no useful, and we can only have like one of those. Yeah, I think that was kind of the problem, is that when I built this deck before, I had so few cards that there wasn't even really any options. There was just, you've got to play these to even make sense. It really does go to show that these brawls are not for new players. Unlike Hearthstone, where I feel like Tavern Brawls were very much for new players, more than even old players. I imagine a lot of old players weren't even trying to play the brawls if it weren't for some of the rewards that were being offered. And there's no rewards offered in this, so you're in this weird position where if you play the Tavern Brawl, it's simply for fun, and Magic has this weird problem in which nothing can really be done for fun, because it's all about money, it's all about position and rank and prestige, and you really just cannot get away from that. What I would like is the king back. I didn't want to lose him. I should have dragged his name downward instead of removing him. And he's like a multicolored guy, so he should be somewhere over here. We got this new card. This card's still banned. I think that's just going to consistently be banned. Okay. I definitely do feel like I've added 4 or 5 new cards just in what I've seen here compared to last week. Eventually that'll stop happening, though. Of course, it kind of has to. Like, I don't see how it couldn't. Maybe it's colorless. Can we just search commanders? Yes, we can. With no filters. Where did the other guy go? Seriously. How come I only have 3 things labeled as commanders now? Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Whatever. We're gonna does not deck contains cards that do not match the color identity of your commander. Would you like to save and exit anyways? Alright, which ones are not the color identity of my commander? White. So is it just saying that all of these cards here are invalid? Or is it just the blue-black ones and the red-blue ones? The ones that don't have white in them are invalid. That might be... That's weird. It does kind of get rid of some of these lands that I've been focusing on. So is that a valid deck? Green, white, red, white, white, black, white, blue. So yeah, we can't have any even dual color cards, which really does kind of just put you like in a bad position, because then you, like, best case scenario, I then look for land here, and then I can put in that card and that card, and both of them are already in there. Yeah, it needs some work. Now the good news is, with the next November update, Magic is getting friends list and tweaks, other kinds of tweaks. We'll talk about that today, and with those tweaks, I'm hoping maybe they could rethink some stuff. The problem here is, I know there's a lot of people, at least online, that are constantly yelling at Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering people to change this, do this, do this. And they've introduced Pioneer, and I think everybody likes the idea of Pioneer, except for the people who think that it's replacing Modern, which very possibly is replacing Modern, which is a terrible name, because Modern hasn't been Modern, I think, for years. So that's a good idea, but then they don't bring Pioneer to Arena, so it's not in this digital game we're playing. So that's kind of useless for me. They can't pull a Hearthstone here, I don't think, and make an auto chess battler. Well, they could, but it would be crazy. It would be pick a collection of commanders like this and put it on the field, and then just have them autoplay. And actually, if Magic could figure out how to do something like that, that would be great, because that would be way quicker than a lot of Magic games. But in general, I'd prefer if you could just go into auto mode. Like, just say, here's the cards in my hand, here's the priority in which I want them to be played. Play them as soon as you can, and always attack if you can defeat the creature or deal damage. Like, it would take out a lot of what makes it a two-person game, certainly, but if I could just go into auto mode and win even a third of the time, that'd be great. Let's see. Let's see. So I'm going to put this on the field. But it would be nothing for the brawls to give you at least a little bit of gems or a little bit of gold. Anything at all that would help us along. Command zone. We'll just put that back in the command zone. Oh, I can't pay. So now that's going to cost more. Alright, well. These brawls and these commander decks really need a lot of mana. I forgot about that part. So I've been saying that there's not a lot of news, and again, compared to the old days, there's not a lot of news. But on the other hand, let's see. Let's see. Double strike and this. And then all attack. There's a decent amount of news. In fact, I would say today is going to be some weird news about just recalling a bunch of old drama. Like this seems to be the exact point when companies, November 13th seems to be the day that companies think that you've forgotten about their drama and that they're just going to push forward towards the Black Friday events and getting people to buy games for the Christmas season. Or holiday season in general. I suppose it would be best to describe it as the let's see. Convoked. This is gonna auto pay all of those cards. And I think that's how it has to work. So, yeah, we'll be talking about some old stuff. We'll have to. I'm gonna have to make a decision whether I want to really promote or talk about the news. I think the way it really is gonna boil down to is, for instance, there's an Overwatch thing. There's an Overwatch event going on promoting a new skin that is getting promoted. Should that really be promoted, or is this a case of those news sources really just kind of forgetting that things happened, or conveniently forgetting that things happened because they just want to keep talking about the same things over and over again? So I could certainly close all the tabs talking about the Overwatch skin and not talk about all of the Activision Blizzard drama that's been going on for probably 2 years now, and honestly probably a lot longer than that. but at least in recent memory, 2 years of Activision Blizzard BS happening, the Hong Kong censorship being just part of that. But it probably is still important to report the news and just report all the news and make everything understandable and as concise as possible, but as detailed as possible also. So find that happy middle ground. So yeah, I certainly have felt like there have been some cases where people have a bias, and news sites have a bias, and so they'll bring up things that are completely unrelated. But I think in the video game world, when you're talking about a company, and a company is all about its actions that it has or has chosen not to do, that's an important thing to point out. Now, if Activision Blizzard had 20 years ago done something controversial, I don't think it's really that important to mention that right now, but we are still fresh in the wounds of the Hong Kong stuff, and the Hong Kong stuff at least chains back into the Diablo Immortal stuff. There's a definite point. This guy's gonna draw cards and do more damage, I believe. Like, whenever you draw a card, deal 1 damage to any target. So it's just have him draw a bunch of cards, and then he'll deal more damage. This is an interesting strategy. I don't know if it is going to do anything for him. So that's gone down to like 30, where I have 46 cards, but I think he'd probably win by the time I had enough cards on the field otherwise, and I can't play these two until I get at least one more land. As for what I did yesterday, bugger all, to use a British phrase. Had to get up early for an electrician to show up to install some wires for a video doorbell and closed circuit TV system I'm trying to have installed. The guy took a look at the job and within 5 minutes ran in fear. He literally did nothing. He was telling me BS is like, well, we run phone wire and we run coax and we run Ethernet. And I'm like, look, this video doorbell wire is a 6-wire connector. It's not twisted pair, but it's basically Ethernet. It's just wire. There's nothing special about it. It's not fiber optic. It's not anything special. The closed circuit TV has just a power wire connected paired with a RCA wire. It's exactly like coax. There's really no reason why he shouldn't have been able to do this job, and he's just going, well, this is not what an electrician does. And I'm like, all right, fine. So you're not comfortable with it. And he goes, it's not that I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm like, yeah, you're not comfortable with it. I didn't argue with the guy, but I was very quickly about to throw him out of the house, particularly because he was posting this idea that, well, I'll waive the service fee. They never said anything about a service fee, and there was no way I was going to pay somebody to walk in my house for 5 minutes and tell me he can't do the job because he didn't want to do the job. Like, that's straight up fraud. That, like, but yeah, total BS, but this is also about the third person I've talked to that does not want to do the job because nobody wants to do anything they're not familiar with, apparently, and nobody wants to learn anything new, which just seems to be a problem I consistently run into when hiring repairmen and such. Like we had a plumber didn't want to work on the tanks that came from Home Depot. They only wanted to work on the tanks that came from Lowe's. It's like they're the exact same thing, pretty much. But the only people that want to install like security systems or closed circuit TVs are people that want to sell it to you and want to sell you on monitoring. They want to sell you extremely old, extremely cheap things for $500, $600, $700 markups. So I fully would recommend, if you are not capable of crawling through your roof and running all the wires and positioning all the security cameras, or running all the wires and installing a video doorbell system, don't buy one. Don't buy the components. I'm gonna give this like one more try, and then I think I'm gonna give up on the Wednesday Brawl, because I'm fairly certain you don't get anything. Yeah, I'm fairly certain you don't get anything for winning. But yeah, unless you're capable of crawling through the roof, which is the part I can't do. Like, I fell through a roof once, fell over a roof once, and I just am not willing to do that again. I'm not willing to risk it. So all I would need is anyone, frankly, to put the wires. It would be nice if somebody knew what they were doing with the cameras and would at least give me their feedback and thought about where cameras should be, but I don't absolutely need that. I can put the cameras in a slightly wrong place as long as there's a way to position them to point in at least some general direction. It makes me wonder, when you're not talking Walmart, which I imagine Walmart just has a team that goes around from store to store installing all the security cameras, I kind of wonder if a lot of the other systems are just approaching 100% dummy cameras that aren't actually wired or connected to anything, or if there's some other factor that I'm missing. It's crazy. I imagine a lot of small businesses do just run all the wires themselves. But I certainly have had a time of it trying to get this to happen, and it's not been fun. And because that woke me up at a different time, of course, now I'm streaming late, and because I just overslept, and I was in no mental mood to do anything. I've desperately needed to reboot my computer for probably a week now, and I can't do it because I'm trying to finish Fear, and I didn't get anywhere towards playing the rest of Fear. So, very inefficient use of my time yesterday, even by my standards. Now I have had a few seconds where I've been messing with my server and adjusting the file sharing service. It's called Samba. So I've let's see. Know if this is a good card to play or not, so let's play this instead. actually go ahead and just attack here now, because even if this defends, I still get health, and then that gives me more health. So yeah, there's a bunch of virtual file system modules that you can install on top of Samba. One where if you delete files, it will put it in like a recycling bin folder instead over the network, which is helpful. One that lets me expose the ZFS file system snapshots as previous versions of the folders to Windows, so that someone could potentially go back and get an older version of their file if they change something. One that allegedly, I can't even test it because I don't have any Apple products. One that allegedly will have the what is it? The Apple Net ATalk protocol work. So file sharing via Apple macOS products. So there's something to that too. Some other things that are just kind of cool. It was actually very hard to get it to work, and it involved changing the way the snapshot files were named, just because the version of Samba for Debian is so old. If you have a newer version of Linux, then the file naming format is better adjusted. The problem is that by default, if you install the almost certainly ZFS auto snapshot program, it will put something like daily or frequent or monthly or weekly in front of the snapshot name, so you know that this is a frequent picture, not just a daily snapshot, or frequent is like for every hour or so, up to the last 4 hours are saved, something like that. So with that labeling, it can't really figure it out, so you have to change that script, that code, so it doesn't put that label there. And was a new experience for me, involving doing a git merge, and I've never really done more than using git to download files, git being kind of like a file versioning system. So I had to go through it and decide, what do I use, the new code or do I use the old code manually? Which, if you didn't understand code, you'd never get anywhere with that. And even if you did understand code, there's a decent chance
the wind calls and the waves answer.
That there's a decent chance you wouldn't know what you're doing. But I got it all to work, which I'm surprised it took that little amount of time. Actually, it had every chance to take a lot longer. Then I also realized that my ebook software Calibre has a wonderful system in which you can just mark certain books to not be auto-identified as the wrong books, which would have been super useful to know a couple weeks ago. Yeah, but overall, not accomplishing much in life. This on the field, and this on the field. And then I'll attack. There we go.
Take your violence elsewhere.
Yeah, I also found out that the log rotate program in Debian, I had just set it up where I was putting the password in the field without quotation marks, and none of the other fields require quotation marks, so it's crazy. The password itself does, so as soon as I just put it in quotation marks, everything worked perfectly fine, and I think that was really the only thing that needed to happen, although I may have also changed the user to the wrong user, so I changed the username back to the default one. Alright, I'm just gonna play this, and then I'm going to I guess play this. And I guess play this. Would have been nice if this wasn't here. Alright. -1. Yeah, you want to defend with that? No. No attacks. So I've been doing a lot more just goofing around on my server than anything else. I still don't think I have the search and indexing working right, but it seems like it should be working. It just doesn't seem like it really does. Could just be the computer running it's pretty slow. And I looked in the system logs, and 2 of the hard drives I have set up are incredibly faulty. Like every few minutes they're throwing back errors, and yet somehow they're keeping up the ghost and working. So as long as they haven't completely failed and faulted, I'll keep them in there, and as soon as they completely fail and fault, then I will replace them and remove them, and be more than happy to frankly get rid of them. Let's see. Still notice this. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control, there or more card types among permanents you control and are in your graveyard, and your life total is greater than or equal to the starting life total, you win the game. So if I could just get 5 different colors in what I control or otherwise, that would be great, but I don't think I can do that. So happily ever after is kind of useless. Now all it does is it gives you 5 health and draws a card. But particularly on a Wednesday brawl, it's useless. Just attack here. And do we have anything else we would want to attack with? I mean, we can attack here. Attack here. We gotta really get rid of that. So now this enchanted creature has -2/2 and is useless.
I find a downfall.
And this one is.
Even a typhoon begins with a single raindrop. My power thunders from the skies.
Yeah, it feels like I've lost here. Let's see. Play this. And then do this.
Do not defy the designs of an elder dragon. Your past is unwritten.
We'll see how that works.
I cannot bear to stay.
Reliable variable.
So let's start covering the news now, since I've been just rambling, kind of. Komatsu has a smartphone article here. Ni no Kuni Crossworld smartphone MMO RPG first footage. So, yeah, this looks very nicely animated when you think that it's just going to be a smartphone MMO RPG. That being said, I can't really see why I would want to play a MMORPG on a smartphone. I could see why maybe a newer generation of people that don't even have computers might want to play that. It just seems like you would have definitely a more limited experience than what you could have if you just even had, even compared to like a Google Netbook experience. You probably would have a bigger screen, better likelihood of better controls. Squeezing everything down to a smartphone screen could be really, really bad. I think I've lost here. Just no blocks. Yeah. Alright. So let's see, what do we need to do? Black or blue? Which I kind of refuse right now to play any more black. I've just had so much of that. So instead, we'll play blue, I guess. Which is probably my worst deck. But let's try to learn a little bit more. See if we can improve it. Let's focus on getting the daily quest done. And maybe off screen I'll play the Tavern Brawl and see if I get a victory there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if I just let it go, because again, I don't think you get anything. I just don't think you get anything for any of that. This is a white-blue deck, so the good news is it's not just straight blue. While we're doing this, we have a game on Steam here called Chrono's Arena, which looks kind of like a slightly low effort top-down player versus player game. Yeah, doesn't look particularly interesting. Early access, free to play, player versus player, in-app purchases, English only. Nothing here to interest me. Right now my Steam wishlist fall list cleanup series is airing, and I got at least one view, which I assume is not from me. So thanks to that one person, but it does kind of go to show that if you're not covering something big, you're probably not going to get any views, at least at the moment. Now, the YouTube requirements that the FTC is forcing them to comply with the COPA, of which they kept pronouncing COPPA in the YouTube video, that the YouTube put out a video mentioning it, that you have to update all of your videos and mark them whether they are targeted towards kids or not. So they've done it a pretty easily good way. Like, to their credit, all you have to do is go to your channel and say, are the vast majority of your videos targeted towards kids or not towards kids? If the vast majority of your videos are targeted towards kids, you click one box and then you click the other box, and then you save. Then, if you want to manually review all of the videos going forward, you click the third button that says I want to manually review all the videos going forward. Now they're going to have some automated checking of this, but I would heavily suspect, since this is not something that since this is not something that YouTube spearheaded and they're being forced into complying here, I would heavily suspect that they don't bother to really automate or scan very hardly on any of that. So I imagine only the worst of the worst offenders, only people who are putting up the pregnant Elsa type videos. I imagine those are going to be the ones that get caught and get demonetized or marked as for kids. Whereas if you're slightly off, they didn't even have any penalties at the moment to mention. So they said it might in some way affect your channel, but they don't have even an idea as to what that would be, what the penalty would be if you severely mislabel your things. On the other hand, I have seen that that at least one Lego producer had all of his videos marked as targeted towards kids, probably because it all has Lego in the name. So I very easily, and we'll just have to wait and see if YouTube disagrees with me for some reason, marked all of my things as not targeted towards children, children being in this instance under 13, 13 and under. I'm not sure, is it under 13 or 13 and under? It doesn't matter. None of my videos are targeted to that. Even the Lego games that I play are purchasing advice for adults who might think about buying the games for a kid. They are not purchasing or advertisement for the kids. And I think anybody that would actually watch my videos would see that's pretty obvious, because I go on and ramble and I talk at a very high level and critical level of the games, not just doing like pee pee poo poo jokes. If anything, the argument will come down to who are PewDiePie's real friends. Are they really 9-year-olds, or are they a bunch of edgy 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 35-year-olds? I think if you looked at your like actual market, the actual demographics of my channel or PewDiePie's channel, that would be a big breakdown there too, as far as who you would consider like who they would actually consider as as the target audience. So yeah, I just marked all of my videos as not targeted towards kids, with the exception. Then I went back to a very old video that I made early in my channel, which was just a little music video using another like music selection from the music library of YouTube for the Wheels on the Bus. And so it's just a Minecraft video. It's not very good even, but that one is the only video that is actually targeted towards kids, and so I marked that as actually targeted towards kids. That one video was not ever going to make any money for me anyways, because it's already being monetized by it was already monetized by the music holders. So that's no big loss. Of course, like me playing The Witcher 3, me playing Honey Pop, clearly not things that you could say are targeted towards kids. So unless YouTube just went crazy and said all video game channels are targeted towards kids, which would be BS, then I think we're all going to be fine. The problem will probably fall on channels that are dead more than anything. People that don't bother to do the simple thing. They've made it so simple. It's so un-YouTube-like to be able to just go to your channel page and click a button that says almost all my stuff should be marked for kids. All of my stuff should be marked not for kids. It's pretty easy. And I doubt the FTC is going to go on a case-by-case basis and come back and say, actually, this channel is this, or this channel is marked wrong. Okay. Tap target creature. Start with that. Tap that. And YouTube is definitely making it seem like the FTC is going to come after the content creators, and that they're gonna take all the blame. They're gonna push all the blame onto the content creators, and not take any of the responsibility themselves. Do I need a land? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm just gonna hold on to that land. So it would be a test, certainly, to see if that's actually what happened. You know what? I need to just... I think I need to just attack these guys. Anyways, so I could start getting extra health. Attack. I mean, I could do that, I guess. And drive them crazy. But yeah. course, things could always go badly. It could be a crazy system, a crazy setup where as soon as the Copa stuff comes into play, that we are going to be forced into doing. Oh man, that was the one I wanted. You can see a bunch of channels giving up. Like the Lego channel I saw seems like they are immediately giving up. But you're also going to see a lot of people just use this as an excuse to demand money, which is I think what the Lego channel really was doing, is just like, I need more people to support my Patreon or I'm not going to make content anymore. And frankly, that's true for all content creators at this point, is that we all need more money because we're all making less money, or in my case, I'm making no money. And YouTube has just become worse and worse a platform, and there's not been any real competition. And I don't think this Copa thing really does in any way fall under something where we can just blame the government on it. I think this is kind of a clear example of YouTube not doing what it was supposed to do, and knowing it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do the whole time. Alright, so that's going to be like 6 damage to me. So that'd be 8 damage. Let's just see if this works. Like, yeah, I think had YouTube bothered to implement these kinds of systems earlier, we wouldn't be having these problems now. I can't win. I can't win. There's nothing I can do. Let's see. Top card in their library, into the graveyard. I have 19 cards. He has 35. I would need one thing that could do 10 damage, and that's not likely to happen. And I have no card to destroy these, and I have no card to do anything. I can block, and that's pretty much it. See. I can just kind of put more things in my hand. That's pretty much all I can do. Next game we have on Steam is called Gates to Terra 2. Looks like it's a top-down strategic placement, tower defense kind of game. It doesn't look particularly well animated. It's free to play. English full audio, allegedly. Yeah, nothing interesting there. Alright. So. There you go. Darn it. Forgot I was discarding. $29 to $9. Even if I could play these two, that would only get him 8 cards less. Meanwhile, I'm desperately trying to draw more cards. This will be the last game for this recording, which, man, boy does it feel like I'm barely playing 3 or 4 games in an hour. This was my fear, certainly, that it would turn into a scenario where choose the one, target a spell. There we go. Do I not have enough? No, I don't. Can I play that now? Now he's down to 24. These would pay for themselves back if I attacked with this one turn. So I could, in theory, attack if I can ensure that I hit this on the head, which is a big thing. Is there anything that would benefit from being returned to my hand? I mean, I could return that to my hand. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Auto pay. Resolve. And do I want to play this? I guess next. No attacks. Did he put something new on the field? It's like, why am I resolving all of a sudden? Because I can't do this. So I don't know what the thing is that I'm Yeah. He just got more health. Is there something I can do out of my graveyard? What is the thing? It's like I can add mana. I see that. This requires 2 mana and a blue. I just lost. There we go. Right. Play this. Can't play this. Play this. Resolve. Next. Next. All attack, fine. Yeah. Was that because I played against someone better than me, or is that because of my deck? It almost certainly does have something to do. Reward? No reward. Seriously, what did I just get? There. Orb Master. Why did it show me a reward? And then, was it an XP reward that I just got? And now I can't even see the XP here. Like, all the hovering seems to just kind of crash on this system every now and then. Let's see. Yeah, this system sucks. They definitely need some updates. And you can't even figure out how much XP you have because all the hovering decides to not work. Let's see. Is there anything under adjust options? I wouldn't imagine there is. No. That still works. Just none of that works. Alright, well, this is going to be the end of this recording, and we'll just have to struggle. I think we'll probably just struggle with a regular play mode in the next recording. We're not very consistently making 3 recordings, and I imagine if I started actually focusing on getting the news done, we'll be done in the next recording also. That's going to be it for this one, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of MTG Arena. Today is Wednesday, November the 13th, and we're going to try to get this daily quest done. Actually, I could do this while still playing Standard because I'm doing fine. But the one thing I do want to do is edit this deck. One thing that's becoming more apparent to me is that there needs to be at least one or two cards in a white-blue deck, in this case, that will destroy a target artifact or enchantment. Let's see. This Topple the Statue would cost 3 mana, probably fine compared to this, which would only target artifacts and enchantment. This gives you a little bit more options. Destroy all non-giant creatures. So I think what we probably will want is this one, unless there's something very specific in the blue category that would be playable. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like there's anything there. This is mostly a blue deck with just a little bit of white character cards in it. You know, playing Magic the Gathering, frankly, it does kind of, the way you just say blue, black, and white so often, it does kind of sound like you're saying something racist half the time. You know what, I'm going to just take both of these, and then I'm going to come through here. Let's see. A 2 mana to get a boost is probably not that useful. Surveillance, probably not that useful. This was mostly a flying deck. There definitely was one card, though, that I saw. I think it was in this deck. Maybe it was in a different deck. Yeah, it might have been. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. That's not super useful, but kind of useful. Creatures getting +1/+1. Tap creatures. Can we get more of those? We don't have any more. Discard cards. Surveil. Alright, we need to get rid of 2 things then. So we'll get rid of that. Take one of these. I think those are better. And get rid of that, and then that just again puts me where I need to get rid of something. We'll get rid of one of these air elementals. There we go. Slight tweak. And our hover is still not working. And we'll just keep on trying standard ranked. Seems like probably straight till the end of this month we will end up staying right at the bottom of gold rank. Unless I put in a bunch of effort off screen and just play probably with my black deck a lot. So I'm gonna mulligan in the hopes that I get that, but that still didn't really work for me, so that kind of sucks. What I wanted to do is have a full white plane and this in my hand, and that didn't happen. So we play this first, getting some gross swamp sound effects. And I think we'll be trying today to go further and accomplish more as far as covering the news. So I'm going to jump into the news right now, and we're going to try and just burn through all of it, because the last couple of streams have been just 2-episode streams, but then I spend 10 minutes at the end covering all the news, which is not particularly how I would want it to go. So we have a game on Steam here called Derpy Pirates, which looks like it is a platformer, infinite runner game. Probably a lot of asset flips, low polygon. It's $12.79 discounted, which is way too expensive. It says it has English full audio. Yeah, nothing there that makes that something I'd want to play. Right, well, this guy... Does this guy have reach? No. So we're kind of fine. This can just be a face race. He can attack me all he wants, and I'll attack him all I want, and I'll do 1 more damage. At least at the moment. TechRaptor has an article here. Dungeons and Dragons Sapphire Anniversary dice set celebrates 25 years in style. Now this is a board game. This is a board game mention, but I think the fact that Dungeons and Dragons Sapphire Anniversary is occurring has some relevance. Like 25 years of Dungeons and Dragons means, which Dungeons and Dragons definitely heavily influenced the way a lot of video games were created for a very long time. Even now, it still probably has some influence. So then there's a little bit of history there. Of course, if you'd asked me last week how long Dungeons and Dragons has been out, I would be very unlikely to have guessed 25 years. Alright. This guy's trying to overpower me, but I don't think he can. Not with the cards he has. He's playing a bunch of adventure cards. But these are all going to untap next turn. It's only this one that won't untap. So there we go, got a victory. If we could chain a victory up, we would get a couple of pips per victory and maybe get to rank 3, but you can drop back down from rank 3 to rank 4. So the reward actually showed us a reward. Last time it didn't. And we still don't have the hover. So we don't really know how much XP we need or have. TechRaptor has an article. After a very long time, Wadham finally gets a release date. Wadham being some game I've completely forgotten about. It was apparently announced back in 2014. It looks like it's kind of a Katamari Damacy inspired style game, but if it doesn't have any real relationship to Katamari Damacy, then I don't know why I would specifically try and play it. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. And it getting a release date is hardly any real news because, yeah, you still would need it to come out and be reviewed before you had any realistic reason why you would expect it to be something you'd want to play. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. Get a job. Join Evening Star as a gameplay programmer. This is in LA, California. It's hard to take a job in California right now, with potentially the entire place burning to the ground. Creatures, spells with flying you cast cost 1 less. So why was that not free then? That's my question, is why was that not free? Can you not reduce something down to 0 mana? Does something always have to cost mana? If that's a rule, I'd like to see it written down. In fact, I'd like to read the rules in general for Magic the Gathering, because there's clearly stuff I don't know.
Effective.
So, what would the target mana cost for this be? I don't know what the converted cost on this is. It doesn't have a converted cost. So it seems like it could probably just next turn, if I can't do anything else, do this and just use all my mana.
Smelly, but effective.
TechRaptor has an article here. Jedi Fallen Order EA Access members won't get early access. So they're saying they want to avoid spoilers, that this probably means the game is not finished, and they need that extra time, if I was to guess, or that they know that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is not going to be particularly that good. I didn't really think that it was. Like, so far I haven't seen anything that would imply to me that it's particularly good. So, seriously, just gonna destroy everything I've got. So yeah,
Rise and shine.
I hope, I would like to see Star Wars games succeed, so I hope I'm wrong about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it really is a case of them not really having a good game there. I wouldn't be surprised though. It's like half the Star Wars games I've seen don't really seem that good. This guy is just exiling every card I have. Does this Planeswalker do anything with exile cards? No. So if he has some strategy, I don't know what it is.
Rise.
Like, how many more of these cards could he possibly have? And we've got this in case, but we are quickly running out of life and running out of things to do. Let's see. Does the guy stop playing? Kind of feels like the whole game pauses. I guess if the music's playing, the game didn't crash at least. So second dinner, the company started by Ben Brode, who used to run Hearthstone, has some job listings now, so they're hiring up for this Marvel card game that they are working on. So they're looking for a comic style colorist, freelance job, and a 2D illustrators freelance job in the Irvine, California area, although I'm not sure you really would need to be in that area for freelance jobs of those sorts. If I was just to guess, that probably isn't as big of a deal as to commute to. Oh man. Well, I'm gonna lose, so we have 4. Apparently we can't do that. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so you can send these guys back for 0. But then sending that back for 0 creates 0 characters. So that was pointless, other than it just
Listen to my symphony of death.
chooses a permanent they control and sacrifices the rest. So I'm going to hold on to my white land.
This will be child's play.
What is this
You're
one
not
do?
well. Good for you. I'm gonna make myself scarce.
Think I'm doomed. If I was just gonna guess, I think I'm doomed. So I put out a comic book. I mentioned this on Twitter the second dinner. My fantasy comic book creator, who would almost certainly never be allowed to work on this project because A, they work for DC, not Marvel, and B, which may not be as big of a problem as it seems, but B, they also are most famously known for creating the adult
looks like a
comic
fun new
series
toy.
Sunstone, which is a relationship series between generally two. The first chapter, at least, the first section, the big first volume, is two lesbians who are heavy into exhibitionist bondage. And while it is not just straight up porn, it does not shy away from showing the occasional TNA and P and V, I suppose, would be the kill 25 of your opponent's creatures. I am not accomplishing that at all. Well, now that we don't need to play that anymore, I'm going back to my blue deck, I guess. Where's my green deck? Let's see. Let's try the green deck. Haven't played that in a while. So, being that this person, who I can't really pronounce their name, on Twitter, it's Steven like Stepeknik or something like that. Stepnik or something along that line, I believe. Yeah, doubtful they would get the job, but it'd be amazing if they did. Although, in all fairness, if I was to look at the animation styles that you would want for a Marvel card game, I could see quality being more of a focus than art style or consistency. In comparison, I would say that the the art style for these cards, which a lot of different people have made the art for Magic things, but they all stick with a pretty consistent Tolkien-esque fantasy art style that often is a little too complicated, a little too much of a color palette for the small window. So I would kind of like to see something closer to, I think, some of the Hearthstone animations. On the other hand, if they are going to depict everything as a full window image, like this skin, if they made everything look like that in the card game, that would be great. But that's not how it gets depicted. Yeah, in a weird way, I kind of do feel like the I feel like the card game Arena should consider getting rid of the everything except for the best skins, just so it visually is easier to identify things. Having all these different skins is not going to make it easy for a new player to recognize a card when they see it. So this one has Vigilance and Trample. And I could put this to give it a 3/3, but it'd still die. So I need to keep on playing. Meanwhile, this guy's gonna kill me before anything happens. Let's see. So kind of have to play this. So now that we have two characters, we can block, but that's kind of it. So now if he doesn't do something, which he did, alright. Do we have enough to do this? No.
If you still have a home, you should go there now.
Yep, that's a quick loss for me, but whatever. Moving on, we've got a story here from Gamasutra, the sunk cost fallacy. Devs describe how it almost destroyed them. The sunk cost fallacy is a problem that I think happens almost in everybody's life all the time. People get so invested in something they're working on that they continue to invest more and more into it instead of just giving up. Particularly in the United States, there's always been this never give up, never surrender mentality. Giving up and surrendering in many situations might be the exact right move. This is going to be the last ranked game I play. Like, I think going forward on these streams, we're going to try like one ranked game, and then that's kind of it. Because if I'm going to have any variety in the decks I play, which I need to get more familiar with the different colored decks. I'm going to have to show those decks off playing in regular play mode, and thus not trying to get wins. Because if I was just trying to get wins in ranked play, I would do that specifically by playing just the black deck, which is the only deck that seems to win at all right now. And Yeah, we probably should consider another deck rebuild already. Like, let's see. But I'm not really ready for that to happen. Let's see. Vigilance. So, is there anything in this article that specifically would address the sunk cost fallacy? Maybe, if you're interested in looking at. Let's see. There we go. Alright, so next attack here. Next. Alright, now we play this on this. And that should win just fine. We'll hold on to this for later. And while we're at it, we'll sacrifice food, since we don't need that much mana. Yeah, this was actually rather long article for Gamatsu, or Gamasutra, but it is just kind of getting clips, and I think each paragraph is probably part of an interview from a different company and talking about how they ran into problems. Now see, this would be a great point to mention that if I had put in a card to destroy an artifact, that would be useful. But I didn't. So whatever. Do I just not have a white? I guess I don't, so I can't play anything yet. There we go. We should be fine. Should be fine to win here. TechRaptor has an article here. Debut of the GTA Online Casino nets record real-world profits. So, yeah. Probably a surprise to nobody that putting in gambling mechanics into video games, actual gambling mechanics, despite the fact that it gets you terrible press coverage, still makes you a ton of money. And that's all they really care about. Let's see. So, yeah, they did it anyways. Speaking of doing it anyways, TubeBuddy, which is the plugin for YouTube, which I guess I'm having a increasingly less use of since I've just started using the uploader software. Hopefully the uploader software still works after this new update. Is he not gonna defend with this? Yes, he is gonna defend with this. Good. Well, we shouldn't quit on a victory. That would be dumb. Let's quit on a loss. So, TubeBuddy on their Twitter has this video, $42,530 fine per video for them not following COPA. I don't think that really works, but here is the video. There was something about this lady too. She's not a typical person that posts on the YouTube channel, and a lot of YouTube creators don't watch the YouTube channel, so they're trying very hard to get these kind of videos in front of the face of everybody. But there was something with her teeth or the way she talked. I can't remember, but she was a little bit off there. In general, it might have just been that she's also reading off a very strictly regulated script and could not diverge in any way. Yeah, if YouTube really did get fined $42,000 per video, unless this was a case of like 12 videos, they're almost certainly going to appeal that and never pay it. If that would bankrupt YouTube, and well, I guess if YouTube got bankrupt, then that would be crazy. But it is definitely a mention of how YouTube needs to get their stuff together and be way more reactant to comply with laws and not just kind of do whatever they want to do and think they can get away with it forever. Which I feel like was
You are not worthy.
exactly what they were trying to do. Was just they felt they were above the law. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. The Atelier Dusk Trilogy Deluxe Pack second trailer is out. Which, this is not the new Atelier Ryza game, it's the older series is being resold. So this would be Atelier Aisha, the Alchemist of Dusk, Atelier Esha and Logi, Alchemist of Dust, Sky DX, and Atelier Alchemist of the Dusk C DX. These are clearly DX games. And by the animation on them, you can kind of see that too. Yep. It was really surprising to hear and find out that there were so many Atelier games out there, and I had just never heard of any of them. But I would imagine Atelier Ryza is the one I would want to play first and probably only. Let's do no attacks. Just because we can attack doesn't mean we need to. It is also worth mentioning that I heard a rumor, and I can't really confirm it with an article, that either Atelier Ryza or one of the Atelier games was denied classification in Australia. Australia getting worse and worse, it seems, by the day about not approving video games, and they'd been pretty bad in the first place.
Forgive me.
What? I guess I couldn't defend because that was a flying creature. Guess we'll just go ahead and attack. Particularly, I think Australia is targeting Japanese material of all sorts. So Japanese games, movie, anime, manga, all of that, as stuff that they just don't want in their country. They're basically doing a slow, conservative trade war. I don't even think it's a trade war. I think it is just a censorship thing. I don't think if you threw enough money at the problem it would solve anything. Let's see, auto pay. How's this card work again? So, yeah. I'm certainly glad I don't control, I don't live in Australia. I'd be fine to control Australia. If they want to name me their new king, I'll take that position, but yeah, I'm glad I don't live there. For many reasons. Spiders and koalas being two. Moving on, for the Switch, the Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix has a t-shirt pattern edit feature, which I assume means that you can create your own t-shirts with pins and erasers. Okay, cool. Probably not going to be that interestingly used, if I was to guess. And so, whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, this fights a creature you don't control. Alright. So, what I want to do is no. Not play that. So I guess I want to do this. And then I guess I want to do this. And then go ahead and just kill that. And I think he just conceded there. I don't think I lost. Now we've got 2 victories, so again it would be silly to stop playing on a win, so we'll chase the victories. Gamatsu has an article here for the Famitsu review scores, issue 1615. So we have Dark Devotion for the PS4 and Switch getting a 27 out of 40, so it's not that good. Demo Reborn for the PS4, 32 out of 40. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, 36 out of 40. They actually liked it. Mononoke Slashdown, 27 out of 40. Not very good. Mutant Year Zero Road to the Eden Deluxe Edition, 31 out of 40. Stay Cool Kobayashi-san, the River City Ransom Story, 27 out of 40. Not that good. Super Dodgeball Beats, 29 out of 40. You Died, but a Necromancer Revived You for the Switch, 28 out of 40. So a pretty low amount of scores that are, so not very good games came out this week. But there's bigger story with Famitsu. The Japanese audience seems to now be questioning, and I think there is some legitimacy to question why Famitsu gave a 40 out of 40 out of Death Stranding. I thought that perhaps and I still think to a certain extent this is true. I think that Death Stranding speaks to a Japanese audience better than it does a Western audience, and that would just make sense with Hideo Kojima being in charge of it and making that game. But what's being thrown around, and there's evidence to this, is the fact that the former person in charge of Famitsu appears as a Easter egg in Death Stranding. Current employees of Famitsu appear as Easter eggs in Death Stranding. This is the old system of video game companies buttering up video game critics by putting them in the game so they have some kind of investment. Now, this is kind of the problem with the lack of ethics in games journalism, which it's been a long time since I've had to use that phrase, but it's right there. And it's really not on the game developers to say, no, we won't allow a video games journalist to appear as an Easter egg or do voice acting or in some other way be entangled or profit from or invested into a video game more than as a reviewer and a casual consumer. That's really not on the game's developers. That's on the video game journalist. And Famitsu, which I cannot go back and deny that I haven't said this, is the most respected video games journalism site, and even they are showing here an incredible lack of ethics. That they should not, former employees, former owners of Famitsu should not be showing up in this game. Current employees definitely should not be. Once you become a video game critic, I've said it before, you kind of can never work in the video game industry. Otherwise, you just run into that same scenario that everybody hates, where a politician passes a law to benefit a company, and then that company hires them as a lobbyist as soon as their term is up. It's just pay for play. Well, I don't know if that's really what that phrase is for, but it's the same garbage we've seen over and over again, and same thing we don't want to see ever. So yeah, honestly, as I've seen more and seen more reviews, while I think some of the reviews for Death Stranding are highly wrong and invalid, which I suppose might just boil down to a matter of opinion, I think Famitsu would have been fine to give it a 36, 37, even 38. But those extra 2 points, I don't think it deserves it there. Saying that it is potentially one of the 26 best games to ever exist is ridiculous. Which Famitsu has only given out 26 perfect scores. Because, let's face it, Death Stranding is repetitive in its gameplay mechanic. It doesn't have a very interesting gameplay mechanic in the first place, because you're just moving things from point A to point B. We've seen better games out there than Death Stranding. I would totally want to play Borderlands more than I would want to play Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3, take your pick. I totally want to play that more than Death Stranding. So yeah, it almost is an admission that this is the sad day. This is the point where we have to say that all video game journalism has completely died with the Death Stranding reviews. Because you can't really trust any of them. I think I'm going to properly lose here. The Blade Runner game is now playable on... Let's see, we can show this off. The Blade Runner game is now playable on RetroArch through the ScumVM engine, which I did not realize the Blade Runner game had 3D graphics. I thought it would have been a 2D game. It doesn't really matter though. Like, so, yep. More and more games being added to the ScumVM lineup in particular. Yeah. And we'd kind of already talked about that, so there's nothing more to say than that they updated the version of the ScumVM core, so the updated version of ScumVM, which doesn't really require libretto, but I think works perfectly fine with it either way. Now supports more games, and that's going to be more true for, let's see, what does this need? A black? So the only thing I can do here is make it black, so then I could do this, so I could destroy this. Got too many spells and not enough creatures. I shouldn't be in this situation. Alright, so on a defeat we will leave as that. And just move over to play mode. And I want to test out this one. Yep. I think a slight adjustment could be done off screen. Just make sure I have at least one card that destroys an artifact or enchantment always. That's just a core base thing. Let's mulligan that. And still not really great, but I think this is what we're playing for. Don't even know what I'm really playing for. And maybe Steam is down, so maybe we'll have no way of covering the rest of the news. Next we have a game on Steam here called Mr. Pumpkin 2 Kowloon Walled City, which I think is probably some weird, like, Chinese point-and-click adventure, if I was to guess. It's $9.99. Let's see, there's a Mr. Pumpkin adventure on my wish list. It is Chinese. Let's go and look at this and see what the reviews are. Says it's very positive. And the other game here is called Little Triangle. I'm still waiting for the other guy to play. Nothing here looks that interesting. So, am I willing to play a weird point-and-click adventure? You know what? I can put this on the follow list, on the wish list, because it kind of just doesn't matter. Like, if I don't buy the first game ever, whatever. Yeah. So you're kind of in a weird position, because if I put this on the follow list, I might not promote it to the wish list, but then if I probably should put it on the wish list, so I'm just going to put it on the wish list, and we'll see. And then I might do a wish list cleanup at some point and decide to remove a lot of these things. get rid of that. Yeah. I think I may already have a victory because I think this guy's not going to play. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Google plans to roll out Stadia features weekly after a bare bones November 19th launch. We always start with nailing the key user journey, then proceed on releasing extra features. YouTube started with the watch video for Stadia. It's play the game on your biggest screen. So they're promising more after a very disappointing launch lineup, to say the least. But I haven't heard anybody say anything positive about this. So here's a great example of just how long it takes for somebody to not play before the game auto-concedes. Which, in fairness, compared to Hearthstone, that's way, way shorter than what it takes in Hearthstone, but it's still really, really short. So maybe somebody will play this game, maybe not. Kind of doesn't matter. I'm perfectly fine with going 14 more games of people not playing, getting the 15 wins and being done for the day. So I could get back to playing Fear. See, the crazy thing is I'm going to have to call another electrician, which means there's going to be yet another day in which I'm not getting work done. And ideally I need to get this electrical wires pulled, or these not electrical wires but video wires pulled before it starts getting hot again out of the winter season, and if it doesn't happen, I'm just going to give up on installing it until fall and winter next year. Let's see. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Voodoo opens a Canadian studio to expand beyond its hyper-casual market. I have no idea who Voodoo is, though. They're apparently a mobile game maker. Yeah. What's funny is that if I was to kind of focus on or talk about all the mobile game makers of 2018 at the end of 2018 and then do the exact same thing for 2019, probably would say the exact same thing, which is there's nothing to say. Like, mobile video game makers have not done anything really to put out a game of the year type product or anything of real interest. The only game I'm playing on my phone that I even would bother to mention at this point is Destiny Child, and I believe that is pretty much, yeah, that's the only game I'm even playing. I got rid of Clash Royale, I got rid of Town Adventure, Adventure Town, I got rid of Kleptocats 1 and 2 of that. There's a game called Sandwich that I played just because I thought it was a funny concept, but that's it. I don't know what I want to get rid of, but I'm gonna have to discard something. Let's get rid of that, I guess. So here's one of those stories I was talking about where you're just going to have to put the history in with the story. TechRaptor has this article. Mercy's recall challenge puts the spotlight on Dr. Ziegler. this is a Overwatch event. Overwatch is owned by Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is pro-censorship, and Giant Bomb had an interesting spin on it, where one of the vice presidents of Blizzard said they did not like the censorship of he publicly said he didn't like the censorship and the 6-month suspension now of Blitzchung. But then he Jeff on Giant Bomb, I believe, pointed out, well, maybe this is the company letting him come out and disagree with him, so it muddies the water. And if that was the case, that would be a quite sneaky, manipulative move, but very possible, come to think of it. Yeah. The main guy in charge says that we're not changing it, the suspension is staying, blah blah blah, we were right. And then you have somebody who's below him disagree with him, so it seems like there's dissension in the ranks when there really isn't. So that's an interesting thought, but it really doesn't have anything to do with this story. This story is, yes, there's a Overwatch thing. Blizzard is pushing out quite a lot of stuff to try and get people to forget about all the bad things Activision Blizzard has done in the past few years, and hopefully the video game audience isn't so flippant and forgetful that they will get away with that. But unfortunately, it might work too. Let's be honest. Let's see. So this is interesting from a understanding perspective that I don't think YouTube Gaming has. So YouTube Gaming tweets out, "We can't think of a reason why Jesse Cox would be biased towards a game that stars a redhead named Jesse. Jesse Cox being a redheaded male that has a name Jesse. The character in Control is a redheaded character named Jesse." Now, the funny thing about them giving a shout out and linking to his video is Jesse Cox really shouldn't be the front face of YouTube Gaming in any way. In particular, this video is the video game for the Distinguished Gentleman, or reviews for the Distinguished Gentleman video, which is his new effort that started as an April Fool's joke, where he literally posted onto Pornhub him and another YouTuber reviewing an old anime hentai porn. So that's they I think quickly found that no, you can't post almost the entirety of the porn. He really did just post almost the entirety of it, scene for scene, on the Pornhub. No, you can't do that and try to make money and try to make that a business that actually would in any way succeed. This one doesn't have flying, so just say no attacks there. So then they were going to continue down that path, and I don't know if maybe they still are doing that behind some kind of Patreon or something. But then they've expanded it to now be two guys just reviewing video games, which also doesn't really make sense because Jesse Cox has said very vocally and very loudly that it's not worth his time to review video games. And so he's not really being a video game critic or reviewer by his own admission. Instead, he's just being a live streamer, which, I mean, whatever. There's a lot of people out there doing that, and you're not going to get the copyright protections doing that. Um, I don't think this deck is very good by the looks of it. So yeah, there's just like a lot of weirdness there. It feels like he also is probably getting somewhat paid or invested to promote control, which I don't know really if there's a redheaded female actress in that looks like they've made new footage in particular for, and so it feels like they worked directly with the creators of Control. So yeah, and yeah, I get it. He liked Control. A lot of people like Control. I kind of hated it in the long run. Like I thought it was kind of generic and boring. But I do recognize that my opinion there is probably a matter of taste more than something that would lead to a recommendation. I would still say if you want to play a first-person shooter with psychic powers that feels kind of like if you were a super powerful Force Unleashed Jedi character, then Control might still be it for you, but do recognize that you're going to be fighting the exact same enemy in the exact same building for the entirety of the game, and it's going to get pretty repetitive. Let's see. Moving on, we have a Komatsu article here. Taisho X Alice Episode 1 for PC is coming to the West November 28th. New localization dated following the fumbled release in 2017. Looks like it is it's an otome, young maiden visual novel. Okay. So there's a Steam page. I'll take a look at that. See if it's tagged with any nudity or anything. No. This probably is an Alice in Wonderland reference by the looks of it. And it is kind of a different art style. Yep. Yep. So, if that is a game you recognize, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna just lose here. It's kind of a nice idea though to see translations, localizations, other efforts be redone instead of people just putting out like low effort translations for visual novels. That's not really going to get most people who don't play visual novels to play visual novels, but it's not going to hurt, certainly. Man, I don't even have like the daily quest done. It's crazy. Yeah, until you start getting into like full voice acting, which they can't afford to do, and more live 2D animation to make it feel more alive, I think you're just going to constantly run into trouble with trying to get a large percentage of the casual or Western video game playing market to want to play any visual novels, which isn't surprising. So now we're back to my black deck, which is the only deck I've managed to figure out how to play, because it's probably stupid simple too. It's just relatively strong characters that simmer dries pretty well. There's really not a lot else going on here. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Steam search suggestions. Steam search suggestions and premium positioning, which is just a blog post, probably just promoting search engine optimization and talking about how if your game is at the top of the search list, it's more likely to be seen and played and reviewed. A major point I would point here, without actually reading this article though, is that if these companies would stop using simplistic single word names like control or echo or what was another one, there's so many, Doom even, like if they would just start naming their games something more, put a subtitle on it, something easier to differentiate your game, it makes it a lot less likely that some other game is going to come out and put out a game that's the exact same name. Alright, well, can I afford this? I don't think I can. So we'll just choose to go with no attacks. Gamatsu has Diablo 4, a Shiva boss battle gameplay. Again, Activision Blizzard. Remember, just open that folder. Reasons why you should be boycotting Activision Blizzard. What looks interesting here is it does seem like this is a rather large creature for a Diablo game, since this is your character and that dragon seems to be very, very big. So they might be trying to scale it up a little bit, but you'd almost want the camera to zoom out in this boss battle and then zoom back in later on. At the end of the day though, here we can kind of show off what the inventory is going to look like. Let's jump back there a little bit. You've still got a limited inventory, you still got the same kind of things that you put on the character. It's still just the same game, and there's really not stopping anybody from making a better just making a better Diablo clone and a better real-time strategy top-down RPG game. Loot. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Swordia, which looks like it is a low-effort asset flip. Well, I was going to say it was an MMORPG, but from the looks of it, it looks more like it's a top-down player versus player RPG. Early access, free to play. They're calling it an MMO player versus player game. That's total garbage. And I'm just taking damage like crazy because I don't have enough mana. And potentially I'm gonna lose before I can do anything more. See, next we have a game on Steam here called Soko Loco Deluxe, which looks like it's a train building kind of puzzle game. The graphics don't look good enough to interest me. $8.99, English only. Yeah. Yeah, not seeing anything good enough there. If anything, I'm more and more starting to feel like I've been way too generous, and I've let a lot of other garbage on the follow list, and next time I do a follow list cleanup, I'm gonna regret it. Gamatsu has an article here. Trials of Mana details characters, classes, prologues, and map mechanics for the PC, PS4, and Switch. Which, okay. Yeah, we really don't need a lot to learn about Trials of Mana until it's out and reviewed as the next of the Mana series. This animation style and this character design style, I'd say the character design style more than the animation style, does kind of scream a very unique, weird drawing style, character design style from what feels like something from the 70s, even not even the 80s, which might be exactly accurate because they are probably taking a lot of cues from the previous Mana game. And I could keep scrolling here, but we can see this page is actually halfway done, so I'm just gonna take an opportunity to not go any further down that path, because it's just gonna show like more images of more characters. You can seek out this article if you want. And there is a slight danger that one of the screenshots might be a little bit too spicy for YouTube. Although I doubt it. In this case, actually, I just scrolled down all the way. It didn't look like there was anything too spicy. OpenCritic has the same story. New Overwatch event can net players a new Mercy skin, if you want to read that. They are kind of in a weird position where they're in a weird position because the announcement of Overwatch 2 has happened, so you've got to keep people interested now in playing Overwatch 1, otherwise nobody's ever gonna there's going to be no audience to play Overwatch 2 when it comes out. OpenCritic has an article here, exclusive apparently. Google Stadia achievements will unlock retroactively once they're implemented. Weird that OpenCritic is doing any news articles. Even weirder that they're now getting exclusives. It's strange to say the least, because it does feel like we are quickly running into a scenario where OpenCritic is just becoming the next IGN, as IGN and other people are failing and falling apart. Kotaku, for instance, great example. Right, so what do I want to do? Do I want to attack, or do I want to just try and defend? OpenCritic has another article here. Pokemon Sword and Shield launch event has been cancelled. Is there a reason? Tokyo this Friday.
Your corpse will make an excellent minion. Let's reduce the
due to operational reasons, is what they said. There's some very big weirdness happening, I would say, in the Pokemon Sword and Shield Pokemon fan community. Because on Reddit, I'm seeing people say, "Thank you, Game Freak. Thank you for your tireless efforts." And then, and that sounds like there's a lot of just propaganda being posted by Nintendo and Game Freak directly. It sounds like a bunch of BS, because I don't know why anybody would be happy with Game Freak or Pokemon Sword and Shield, as we learn less and less work and effort was put into it, including the fact that the 3D meshes are just from the old games too. So they basically lied when they cut the national Pokedex by saying that they had to make new 3D models for all the new characters, or the characters that were coming over.
It is just a small headache.
This guy is wrecking me. I'm totally being wrecked. Yeah. So if I was to guess the true feelings amongst most Pokemon players, if you exclude people who are actually autistic or approaching autism and will always love Pokemon no matter what, I think the true feelings are that they are very disappointed in what has been said as far as what Pokemon Sword and Shield will be. Now, we have to kind of wait till there was some reviews out there to be certain, because there might be something there. But there's, for instance, apparently no volume control settings until you buy an object that they don't tell you you have to buy this object and use it inside the game to control the volume. Now, if that was a secondary feature and you got this object for free and it controlled the volume in the game, that'd be fine. But there's really no reason to do it that way. There should just be something in the pause menu. The idea that, remember, this is a kid's game too. The idea that a parent would tell their kid to turn down the volume on their game and they wouldn't be able to do it in an effective manner at the very least, because they don't have that object, is completely wrong. Like, that totally should not be allowed. And yet that's what they're doing. There's probably a whole laundry list, if I even cared about Pokemon more, that I could complain about, that it seems like it's just being done in a very bad manner. Almost to the point where it suspiciously looks like Game Freak is trying to poison the well and ruin Pokemon so that people will play their other game that's not a Nintendo Pokemon game, which, if that's the case, then that's not a good way to run your business, to say the least. Disappointing little kids. It's no way to run a business. Moving on. Magic Arena State of the Game November 2019 is out. So, in progress is fixing gameplay hitches, frames per second drops, and unresponsiveness. Memory allocation management, and crashes are all being worked on, thank goodness, but we'll see how much improvement happens. Social features 1.0, friends lists are being added. Let's see. Is Magic Arena beyond standard? Recently there's been a lot of discussion about what MTG Arena is ultimately to be as a game, to both help current conversations and lend context to the path ahead. We want to talk about our goals for MTG Arena and what this means for players as we begin to look beyond standard. MTG Arena is a gateway to Magic. We want Arena to be the definitive way for new and old players alike to jump into Magic whenever they want, which means they want you to get into paper Magic, which probably makes them way more money. One second as I'm drinking water. MTG Arena is diving into Magic's history. We plan to bring more of Magic's history into MTG Arena through historic and set remasters. Good, because if you don't do that, then your game is going to completely fail. But it is kind of a little disingenuous and disbelievable at the moment to say that, because they've already said that they're not looking to do Pioneer, which would be the way of maintaining old sets of recent history. So if MTG Arena was just, you can play the newest sets in standard, and then you could play like alpha sets and Ice Age sets and really, really old sets, but there's several years gap in the middle of sets that they just won't let you play. That's not going to work for many people. That would be crazy. Like, and the idea that they would start at like the very first Magic sets and then try and catch up makes a lot less sense than if they would just go backwards one set, each expansion each month. And there kind of needs to be an acceleration. They kind of needed this game to come out of beta having every card ready to go, even if it was just in a way that you could see the cards and you couldn't even play them because there was just a long list of banned cards that they were going to bring out of being banned, which would be a crazy way to do things. But if you could just display them, if you just started with that, if you just had a text list of here's the cards that at some point in the future might be playable again in some reprint, due to a reprint or something. Let's see. Yeah, I don't care if that's blocked. It's just card and attack. MTG Arena is a digital frontier. It's a new way to experiment with Magic and expand its possibility, especially in the digital space. I hope they do a lot of that because eventually they need to realize that the way forward is to abandon the paper Magic completely. Like, not now, not 5 years from now, maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago from now. But eventually, though, selling paper cards in a store in a future where stores may not even exist is going to be very, very hard. They've already hit a point that I don't think most people would recognize, is that you don't buy Magic cards in grocery stores. You don't. Maybe you can get them inside of a Target or a Walmart, but I bet you'd have a hard time even getting them there. If they are somewhere in a Walmart, they're in one shelf that you probably don't walk by very often. Toy stores and stores in general are gone. Magic cards in particular, easy to shoplift, and so not included in a lot of stores lineups and a lot of toy stores in general. When Toys R Us was a thing, I don't recall ever really seeing Magic cards prominent or anywhere. So as we're losing more and more toy stores in general, they can't stick with the paper. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there's a law passed that says some of this frivolous products that are, wasting paper, wasting cardboard, killing trees, using ink, some of these frivolous products might just be made illegal. And you look at plastic straws and how they're being banned in California. I could easily see California saying, we're banning all cardboard cards. Like, they're waste. And then that leaves Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast with only being able to make money digitally. So they need to have a platform here that people want to play and that takes advantage of their many decades of previous artwork and card design, which they don't have that right now. Here, I just need to put this in auto-passing mode. The next category is event curation. It says at a high level, all this means is MTG Arena will feel more like your local game store, running a variety of organized events throughout the week. MTG Arena is a lifestyle game, not just a sometimes activity for most of our players. I think that is the wrong audience to target because you've already got that audience. And I think that audience in particular is not the audience that you should bet on anyways, because again, you've already got that audience. Next paragraph is remastered sets. Later next year, we plan to begin adding remastered versions of the older sets of Magic the Gathering. The MTG Arena, in conjunction with Magic R&D, will be looking at multiple sets and condensing them into a single larger set that only includes the most relevant cards and adding that to the game. This will allow us to focus on what made these sets fun and exciting for players while delivering on the content much more quickly. This is a long-term commitment that will eventually lead to an additional format support beyond standard and historic. Pioneer is one of the formats that we're working towards, but it'll be a longer journey before we can talk specifics. As we head towards our goal, we'll be focusing on delivering the best play experience that these iconic card sets can offer, which is interesting because I had heard that they weren't going to do Pioneer at all. Apparently they got enough backlash from that was no longer a viable option. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to win here. Next paragraph is historic. We want to leverage MTG's Arena's digital strengths to create a format that can adapt more quickly to what's going on in-game. Historic is our first take on this, aimed at more experienced players. We want to seriously explore the idea of a living format that changes as it's played. This truly begins with the November game update, when we'll be adding 20 new cards to MTG for historic play. They come alongside best of the one historic launch event and a best of 3 ranked queue. Experimental events is the next paragraph. We'll always experiment with new types of events and formats, and we always will. Soon, let's see. How's this gonna work? Stop that guy. Definitely. Block that guy. Definitely. And then block that guy. Definitely. Could attack here, but then I couldn't block. Some have turned out to be very popular players. Omniscient Draft, Standard Shake Up. Others not so much. Double Life, Brewer's Delight. We're going to keep experiments going and finding more ways to have fun with MTG Arena. Of course, if they're experimenting with these events and then the events never come back, what have you really learned? Or how is that helpful in any way? Next paragraph says a digital frontier. There's understandable concerns at the ideas of doing new things with Magic. Luckily, we're working closely with Magic R&D and finding what's fun wherever it is. So I don't know if there's anything else in this paragraph worth mentioning. Yeah, might as well say no blocks because it doesn't matter, but whatever. And then the last section is cleanup phase. Friends List and Historic Anthology 1 will be arriving November 21st alongside some new quality of life changes, bug fixes, and continue working on performance improvements. Keep an eye on the status page for full maintenance schedule and follow us at MTG Arena for the latest info. What they're not doing though is they're not putting out any like codes for free cards, and they're not giving out any new cards or anything like that, and I'm not really killing other creatures are getting victories. And this is with my best deck, which I think is this. I don't think it's this one, but maybe it is this one. So a lot of good promises there for MTG update, although in all fairness, maybe I shouldn't have bothered to read any of that if you don't care, although this is the journey you're going to go on if you're going to watch these videos at all on my channel, is that we're all in with MTG Arena until at least the second dinner game comes out, and then we probably will be all in with the second dinner game in beta. I don't MTG Arena in particular has a countdown over its head. Like, if the second dinner Marvel card game comes out and it surpasses in quality what MTG Arena is by the time it comes out, I'm gonna jump to that game, and I think a lot of people will probably jump to that game. A lot of people from Hearthstone in particular, but a lot of people from Magic Online and Magic Arena. And I would be happy to start over and fresh with fewer cards and more of a kid focus and more of a simplified experience instead of the long history that Magic has and has to play up to. Moving on, we're going to go late here. We have a game called It's Raining Fists and Metal, which looks like it's a player versus player Smash Brothers clone. It's early access. It's discounted to $5.59. English full audio with a bunch of other language support. The fact that it is player versus player, though, means it's not a game that I'd ever play. And there's far too many Smash Brothers clones on Steam compared to the amount of quality that there are in this. Next, we have a game on Steam here called The Legend of Arcadiu, which seems to have some lewd anime characters in it, but it's not tagged with any like nudity or any of that stuff. $4.19, English only. It says 5 different girls RPG parody comedy. Yeah, it doesn't really look like theirs. Didn't really look like there's much here. It does seem like it is kind of a just lewd game for lewdness sake because it knows it's not good. Let's see if TechRaptor wants to load. We have an article here. The Witcher Netflix Season 2 announced before the first season has even aired. Not super surprising there. Netflix is pretty fast and loose with giving shows a first season and then a second season and then a third season. It's after the third season that they start losing a lot of their audience and retention, it seems. So it really becomes a case of Netflix has shifted what a season is into being the first 3 seasons. But then also, in fairness, sometimes a Netflix season is only like 6 or so episodes. So if The Witcher really is only 6 episodes instead of saying 12 episodes or 26 episodes for a season, being given a second season doesn't mean anything at all. I mean, that's exactly what they did with the Castlevania series, is that the first season was barely a prequel to the second season, and it wasn't until you watched all of the first and second season that you felt like you had a satisfactory journey. And if they are going to make a third season there, it's gonna feel like that is an actual continuation. Gematsu has an article here. Shenmue 3 launch trailer is out. Again, Shenmue 3 doing a lot of shady stuff with the Epic Store and like doing a bait and switch and not giving Steam keys even though they promised Steam keys, and being really jerks about it. I don't think that there's a lot of good reason why a casual person should play Shenmue 3. Now, if you're chomping at the bit and you kickstarted it, you're probably going to get the game on the Epic Store anyway, so you've probably been suckered. And so I just would say take the lesson to not kickstart and support games. But otherwise, I can't blame you if you already paid for the game if you play it. I would say, though, if you are a huge Shenmue fan and didn't buy the game or kickstart it, you probably shouldn't, just as a boycott. And this is really where it's getting down to the point where I'm going to have to start maintaining a list of controversies, because Shenmue's controversy kind of pales in comparison to the Activision Blizzard controversies, and so maybe now it doesn't really matter that much. I would say, at the very least, try to stay out of the first 6 month launch window, 6 to 12 month launch window when buying these games. If you're going to buy them, get them a year later, get them on sale. That way they have to report at least 1 or 2 quarters in which their sales are lower than what they expected due to their own actions. And so maybe they'll learn from that lesson. Probably not, but maybe. Next, we have a game on Steam here called D20 Dungeons, which I would say looks a lot more like Heroes Quest than Dungeons and Dragons. But any kind of game like this has so much numbers and so much text. It's not particularly interesting or good looking. It wouldn't be particularly fun to play this on a computer. It's early access, $12.74 discounted, English only, and single player only, which really drops the ball on what a game like this should be. If you're not playing a board game like this with your friends, at least 4 other players, you're wasting your life, I would say. We may have already talked about this, but I don't know if I showed off the images. So Tech Raptor, We Happy Few's final DLC comes out next week. We All Fall Down. Puts you in the role of Victoria Bing, taking more of an action focus. You'll be able to live through the final days of Wellington Wells as it goes through the shortage of joy. So it seems like it is straight up going to be like a zombie post-apocalyptic DLC with more action, which honestly might be the better way to approach the mess that is We Happy Few. But yeah, you kind of know that they are not going to ever make a We Happy Few 2 or fix the game in a way where most people would want to play it and enjoy it. Next, we have a game on Steam called Disc Golf Adventure VR. The graphics don't look quite good enough, I don't think, to make me want to play it. Flinging things with the VR controllers is kind of crazy. And honestly, in all fairness, why not just go play disc golf for real? Like, why are you doing this in your house? Why are you being antisocial playing disc golf on a VR headset, $600 VR headset, plus $10 for this game, which that price isn't terrible, but like, this doesn't make sense at all. Even if unless you're just incredibly disabled, you should be able to do everything that you do playing disc golf in VR in the real world. You're standing up, you're swinging your arm. There's no difference between that. Unlike like Wii Bowling, which was, I imagine, very helpful for people who couldn't actually lift a bowling ball but liked to bowl. Lifting a frisbee is nothing. It would be the equivalent of the weight of a Wiimote. So yeah, I have no idea why they thought that would be a sellable product. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Refuge. I'm going to try and burn through all the games today. This looks like a GTA clone asset flip game with dark screenshot syndrome. I haven't had to say that today. $11.99 with a third-party EULA. Yeah, nothing there of interest. And of course, Magic is having troubles. The thing here about reading all of the updates that are coming to Magic Arena 2, they did not mention one bit about wait time, and that's the thing that should have been improved and focused on, is because I am seeing tons of this happen. Next, we have a game on Steam called Jumanji the Video Game, which, okay, so the new Jumanji movie starring The Rock has the kids going inside a video game. So now it's gone full circle, and here's a video game version of a movie about kids going inside a video game. I guess Jack Black is also starring in the movie. I think kind of all the actors are kind of famous. They did get quite the quattro of famous actors. The animation here looks terrible though, and this is $39.99 for a movie tie-in game. I'm gonna put this on the follow list, but almost certainly it won't ever get enough reviews to justify purchasing it. It's not like that movie was super successful. It has multiplayer and PvP, so I really need to see a review on this just to make sure this game is bad. Don't buy it. It runs bad. It plays bad. It's not worth £5, let alone £35. Played with my son for about an hour, but it was crashing return for a full refund. This person got it for free, so they're happy with it. Alright, well, I think that's all we need to know. Take that off the follow list. Will we ever get a good game with starring The Rock? You'd think there'd be a whole collection of Fast and Furious video games out there, but I guess it's just easier to make a racing game and not buy the license to the Fast and Furious series. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Skateria, which says it's a post-apocalyptic shooter, but it looks to me like it's a post-apocalyptic Terraria game. And yeah, I don't think I have any interest in playing Terraria, let alone a clone of Terraria. Early access, $7.99, English only. Multiplayer, player versus player only. Lots of reasons why this isn't going on the fall list. Let's see, we have about 10 more games, so let's just burn through these. We have Whispered Secrets Dreadful Beauty Collector's Edition in a Big Fish game, hidden object game, selling for $12.59 discounted. Yep. They are all the same. They are just always the exact same game with slightly different arts, slightly different story, but that is pretty much it. Same gameplay, same puzzles, same concept. Next we have a game called Radish, which looks like it's probably an asset flip first-person shooter game. Yeah, looks like they just bought a bunch of crazy assets to make a crazy game. $2.39 discounted, English full audio, it claims. That's too cheap, honestly, for a first-person shooter. So you can use the price sometimes to recognize that the game's not quality. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Somewhere Inside, which is another 3D dungeon crawler game. Or a horror game inside of a 3D dungeon. Is there actually any gameplay here? Because I'm not seeing a weapon or anything in your hands, so it seems like you're probably just getting chased. So it looks like it's run away. Yeah, there's no health bar, there's no weapons, there's no pickups, nothing being depicted at all like that. So 79 cents discounted. They say this is like, I'm getting recommended this because I played Borderlands 2. It says it's multiplayer, player versus player. I question that. Yep. This is a garbage game trying to show itself like it isn't a garbage game, which I have to applaud games that even bother to do that these days. Next we have Ubermosh Omega, which this is like the 5th or 6th Ubermosh game that's been released, and people seem to like it, but every time I look at any of them, they look incredibly busy visually, and like they just move way too fast as a top-down twin-stick shooter. I guess if you are at the top tier of top-down twin-stick shooters, or maybe it has a great soundtrack, is tagged great soundtrack. Maybe you like the feel of this, but every time I look at any of these games in this series, it's just like, no, too much neon, too much blood on the floor, too much visual garbage and clutter and noise. $4.49 discounted, 6 achievements, English full audio. There's a whole collection of Ubermosh games for $17.99 if you're interested. I'm just not. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam here called Detective Jackie Mystic Case, which looks like a mobile game that's been ported, if I was to guess. Boy, does this look like a mobile game to me. But could it possibly be that there is actually a good mobile game here? Honestly, this looks kind of like one of those pregnant Elsa tricking kids into playing games. $12.99. Let's look at the reviews. Clicker plus crime plus mythology. I'm going to put this on the follow list, but I am certainly uncertain about this. It looks like it's a mobile port of something that's super weird, but did they do something with it to make this really work? Or did they just optimize this game so it looks like it's something people would want to play? Who knows? We'll wait for some reviews. Let's see. Next we have a game that's all Asian characters. It looks like it's a free-to-play RPG style game with some lewd anime girl figurines. Early access, English was not supported, Chinese only, so yep. Can't really say much more than that. It just looks like a regular Chinese game. Although, in all fairness, we did see a lot of Chinese games come out today. Although, again, maybe that's because of what's on Steam has been done. I don't think I did see any new games come out today when I looked at my Twitter feed. So, we may have missed some games, but that's fine. That gives us something to catch up on Friday. Next we have a game on Steam called Superverse, which looks like a space flying around shooting each other game. Yeah, doesn't look particularly interesting to me. Early access, $24.99, English only. That is way too expensive. And here's a single player only, too. 3 more games to go through. See, next we have a game on Steam called No Offense, But, which probably is a troll game. Turn-based strategy game set in Regency, England. This is probably a clone of the card game Regency, I think is the name of it. You must build a reputation for yourself by attending a series of dinner parties and insulting other guests until they break down and leave. $4.99, English only. Yeah, I think this is a direct clone of a card game that actually exists. Maybe it's not called Regency, maybe it's called something else, but it doesn't look good enough to interest me to make me want to play a digital version of it. Next we have another Chinese game here. I imagine that's just an infinite runner, so there's not too much that needs to be said there. It looks like it may have some other modes, but clearly it's just an infinite runner mobile port. $69.99, Chinese only. At that price point, you know that this company is either just making up a number or they are laundering stolen credit cards through their games, which, like YouTube having to comply with COPPA, if there was some laws that came down saying, hey, Steam, you can't let so many of these foreign companies list games for ridiculous prices and buy games with stolen credit cards so much. But I think Steam already is kind of handling that because they're refunding the stolen credit cards, and that kind of changes the situation. Here's that game, Stay Cool Kobayashi-san, a River City Ransom story. This is like the 5th or 6th River City Ransom spin-off game that's come out this year. I don't know why they decided to make so many so quickly. I'll put it on the follow list, but doesn't sound like it's particularly that good. $13.99, full Japanese with other language supports, English and other Asian languages. Yeah, I don't see how even a major River City Ransom fan was that big of a fan that they wanted 5 or 6 released in the same day, same year. And that brings me to the Humble Bundle store, which they've got a, what is Monogatari? I've heard that word. They have a book bundle of the Monogatari supernatural light novels, not the WB TV series. I suppose I could show this. Yeah. So, some kind of light novel series has, I assume, been translated to English, even though it looks like you're getting the Japanese art covers. I've heard of this series, but I don't know why it would be particularly popular enough to deserve its own Humble Bundle. But whatever. The Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and the ACLU almost makes me wonder if maybe the Monogatari book series has been banned on some kind of point, and the ACLU is making a statement here. If you want to learn how to program with the Unreal Engine, there's an Unreal Engine mix bundle that includes a couple of games and a bunch of assets and training courses. Although I don't know if any of the Humble Bundle training courses would be the right ones to go with. Is there an actual games bundle though? No, there's no Humble Bundle for games out right now. So I imagine maybe Black Friday is getting in the way of the release of a lot of games in particular. Supergiant Games is looking for an engine programmer. I'll just mention it and not even open up that page for Friday. Oculus and Unity team up for free courses on VR game development, according to Gamatsu. Yeah, maybe there was nothing that really came out on Steam, or maybe this is a case of them just trying to get away from the Star Wars release. Let's see. Yeah, and I'm just scrolling down my Twitter feed to Gamma Sutra has the Binding of Isaac postmortem article, which might be interesting. Gamma Sutra has a video how Techland built a Dying Light's remarkable parkour system. Gamma Sutra has Tencent's online game revenue surpasses $4 billion in Q3. Alright, these are short things. I'll actually talk about that article Friday. Let's see. Overwatch lawsuit in China won by Blizzard and NetEase, probably because the other company was literally just stealing and cloning Overwatch. Yeah, I don't think any game has come out according to what's on Steam thing. There's one 3 hours ago. Yeah. And it's such a bad game that I'm skipping it anyways. I did see a new handheld Raspberry Pi emulation Game Boy clone type thing. But it seems like it's hard to find. It uses the Raspberry Pi compute module, which is cool if they ever make a Raspberry Pi 4 compute module, which they haven't yet, and then it would be backward compatible, or the hardware would be compatible. But the other problem with the hardware is, while it is very nice, it's like $200 or more. Like the price seems to wildly vary. So I would say the RetroPie Game Boy case, which is only $70, and then you have to put a Raspberry Pi Zero in it, or equivalent, a clone of the Raspberry Pi Zero might be a better move. That would be much more reasonable to spend at $70 than paying $200+ for just the case. Maybe it comes with the compute module. Even if it does, that doesn't affect the calculation. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. One of these days we'll get back to doing 3 streams. Clearly the second recording is always going like 30 minutes longer anyways. Thank you for watching. Have a good